foundation of pop music. You take all the basic elements, the song structure, the simple chords, and how extreme can we make this? What's like the final distilled form of pop music, divorced from anything else, like emotion or talent? And it's sort of an experiment in what can pop music be.
I feel like some of the early punk also was like trying to be anti-pop music, where at the time pop music was very like polished and, you know, it was following a specific sound. Punk music wanted to be the antithesis of that, and they wanted to play music really fast and loud, bang on their instruments and yell into a mic. They wanted something to be somewhat inaccessible to the general population.
Yeah, pop music was designed to be comfortable to listen to. And in order for punk to be the antithesis, it almost has to take notes from pop to go against it.
Well, I almost feel like pop music never had the initial intention to be pop music. Typically, pop music was derived from a new type of genre in which people were attracted to something different, and it ended up just kind of, you know, taking hold over the masses because it was something new, something fresh.
Yeah, jazz was the first kind of pop music.
Yes.
But then rock and roll sort of took over as the formula.
This is a new tone and sound to like jazz.
Yeah. Well, it was
that harder edge.
I feel like rock and roll. Well, rock and roll. I mean, that rock and roll came from jazz musicians who didn't make the cut. You know. You ever listen to Rocket 88? It's about the he's heard it. I've played it for him. The musicians are terrible, but it's like they couldn't make it in the club, so they just did their own thing, you know.
Yeah, I think this gets somewhat into at least one idea of politics in punk music is push aesthetic boundaries. Let's make people like actually appreciate what really terrible music can do.
And that's where people start to lack. It's just the reusing the same aesthetic boundaries that like were previously established by people who were pushing aesthetic boundaries, because they pushed it till it became a norm, and now there's so many people who don't want to push it. They want to just recite what the other dudes already like rebelled against. You're not rebelling, you're just reciting a rebellion.
Right. It's now just acceptable to not be great at your instruments. You don't even have to say anything. You just have to fit into the crowd.
Favorite punk band?
Well, you see, that's a loaded question. If we were to truly discuss the favorite punk band, which I do believe is the question on the table, I think that would have to fall under Green Day. That might be my favorite punk band. Green Day helped indoctrinate the masses into punk, and they were one of the large punk bands to make it on the radio, be mainstream, and to bridge the gap between punk and pop.
They got banger after banger.
Another big thing about the politics of punk, and I think why it's sort of necessary and important for punk to die and fracture, is because it is supposed to actually change the landscape of music and make different kinds of music appropriate, and like make it be okay to be a bad singer or a bad musician as long as you've got something to say. And it's important to have this spectrum of bands like Green Day to assimilate large audiences into this mindset, and then like a pipeline. So punk music wouldn't work without a hinge like that. And it's important to have both musicians who are doing things that can get onto pop radio, and also musicians who are doing things that also lead people away from mass radio to underground circuits, to local scenes, to just really bizarre music that changes how you think about music and what kinds of things you're willing to accept.
Also on Green Day, I'll just point out they're a technically, yeah, they're 4-piece live, but like they're a 3-piece. They could do whatever they're doing as a 3-piece, and I feel that also adds a lot to the punk aesthetic of like minimal people. These are just 3 dudes rocking it out real fast.
Totally.
And that's the real reason, if we had to pick a side, Impulse Machine is situated more firmly in the metal tradition because we operate best with more people, with more technology. And I think having the elements of punk that matter the most, to me at least, like DIY economics, appropriating sucky technology, but technology that people can afford, and making that the standard.
Because, yeah, we're at a weird, like, turnaround where there's so much accessible technology that isn't used by the larger, like, touring bands or anything, but it's also, like, or, like, larger recording studios, but it works literally just as well. The Rocksmith guitar cable from the video game works better than the actual cable bought for that purpose. There's accessible technology that anyone can get a hold of, and that's why punk can be much more than just like a very, to be honest, shitty sound. Like, you can express your full thing in the recording because you have the access to like record it just as easily as you would have to record a shitty recording before. So what's your actual message? And if your song done hi-fi sounds worse than if it was done lo-fi, then like that's not, you don't have a good song. You have a song that was meant for this one specific thing. Places my thoughts on a song. It should be able to be done in so many different ways.
I think the punk aesthetic is meant to embrace the crude and more so project ideals as opposed to try and have a polished, refined product, which I think is one of the things that differentiates punk and metal. Metal is meant to be like consumed as a hi-fi, neatly polished product, where punk is meant to be portraying a certain message.
Yeah, if it hits the same like area, it just goes opposite directions, whereas metal is like more than human. It's this like cosmic thing that needs to be refined. It's perfection in like every regard. It's supposed to be like this visceral thing. That's why so many guttural vocals, like insane sounds that humans can make. Whereas punk hits the same heaviness from the opposite end, where it just wants to sound like really human, the most like raw human you can get. And so opposite ends of the same like energy.
Yeah, it's like here's man. Here's man, and then you got the sky and the earth. And metal goes up into the sky, this fantasy type, but punk is grounded. You know where you are.
Punk even like tries to go like beneath the soil at times, but like it's just like different ways you direct
it's the
that
earth.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
Humanity, but we want heaviness.
Yeah.
Some of us want to go this way, some of us want to go this way.
Mm-hmm.